Okay, this guy's going in here, and right here we have this guy. No, that goes here. Sorry. Okay, I have to put this in first, so let's get that done. There we are. And we have that. Okay. So these parts can go in. This is pretty good here. That swivels good.
Now it does. Now it does. It didn't when you pulled it out of the machine.
Yeah. It goes in there, and then the large diameter has to go in that guy, like that. But we have to put this on at the same time. Like this goes in place. You can kind of see how this machine goes together. As you're playing with a machine like this, you can see how the power transmission, the logic of the power transmission in it. And once you understand a lot of those things and you understand how to adjust it, see, that can't have any play. So the play is taken out with this guy here. So we'll tighten this one. Our adjustment for zigzag is no longer on this. Normally it is on here, and it's going to be on this one now. So we'll go ahead and tighten that one tight and call it a day on that. Now with this over like this, let's go ahead and put in the fork. Okay. 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 What we want to do is install it so we have maximum play because it's easier to get in. And so we'll put this here. So we're going to put some in here.
And you did that by turning the eccentric so it had the maximum play?
Yes.
Okay.
And push that through. Now what I'm going to do is to set the play here. You see that's like that. Like this. We are going to then adjust it in this direction. Smaller, 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 smaller. If I turn the hand wheel one revolution halfway around, I want to hear the same thing. So a little bit loose. So let's go a little bit more. Good. You can barely hear play. And I'll go ahead and set the screw. Now you can see this notch here on the hole.
Camera's got to refocus.
Anyway,
Okay.
with that first notch, that's where we set that screw. And these notches are offset. They're not in line with each other. And so you can set the first one there. The first screw in directional rotation is how it works. Unless it turns so easy.
Would it help if I hold the light?
No, that'd be good here. I just got to hold it. The eccentric wants to turn like that really easy, so Yeah, you can hold a light in there if you want, that's good. And you
Like
just
that?
have this many hands all the time. Okay. Apply pressure against the part so it won't turn. And we'll have it here in just a second.
You do actually a lot by feel, I noticed.
Yeah. You use your face for things too.
There for a purpose.
My last mentor, he says, and make sure your fingernails, he says, you have good fingernails. He says, don't do what I do. That's what he says, you bite my fingernails. And he says, and one day, he says, my trainer, his mentor came over and he says, they're really hard on, they yell at these guys and just treat them like dirt. And he says, he told me, he says, you need your fingernail for this work. He says, don't be chewing them off. Those are tools.
He's right. I don't cut mine too short.
So, okay, so now we have, when we look at right here, we look at this, you can see that when right here, location notch, let me think about this, location notch with needle up and needle down. So on this one, if we go to needle down, the down position, which is going to be somewhere, I don't have the needle in here, but I can quite tell. So the take-up lever is about here. That's going to be the lowest position. And our notch should be in the up position. So the needle all the way down, the down position, which means this crank pin here is going to be all the way down here. And when we look at this, there's our notch here. Yeah, okay. That's where that's supposed to be. So we're timed on that one. Then we go to this one, screw in this guy. First we'll find the location. Oops. And then we'll put the there's two marks on the shaft
Yeah, I can see this one.
and one mark, yeah. And now we're deeper into that. So we should be good to go here. But if you look at the marks by location, one mark is here and the other mark is by there. There's two different marks on it. Okay, now let's put this in place.
Are the two set screws slightly different on the end? One.
This is a flat bottom screw.
Yes.
It's machined flat. And the other's conical.
Yep, that makes sense.
They don't use any cut points. They generally don't use cut points on anything. That's generally what you're going to find in set screws are cut points. A lot of times I'll put it right here, we're tight. Go to the second screw here. Make sure we're tight. I always go back and check all my screws before I ever send a machine back out. See, that one isn't tight. It's tight here. I can grind that a little bit. It's not working. Okay, so we're good to go here. We now have to go ahead and set up. We're going to put these other parts in so that we can put the take-up lever and all that in. Then we're going to adjust needle position, front to back. We're going to adjust needle position across the plate. Now you saw the needle position adjustments. They're identical. They're almost in the same place. This one has little additional tricks on it. And I'll show you that. And then we're going to show you how to set the loop lift. And that will be basically all you'll need to know for right now. And then I'll go ahead and finish up the machine tomorrow.
That's lovely. Thank you.
But the machine will come back perfect. It'll sew perfectly. Perfectly. Okay?
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. It's not hard to make a Bernina machine. You know, if you're a dealer, And all you did was the job that I was trained to teach you to do. And you followed the logic in that. People would think that you're a genius, not because of the result of what you get, because the quality of the product never ever let you down. There's no such thing as money. It's failure to understand that the quality of the product, coupled with good mechanical practice, makes that dealer something special. So, and that's basically it. I'm not anything special. You know, I have some talents and abilities, but I'm not as far as a mechanic goes. You can teach anybody to do the stuff I'm doing, right?
Teaching me.
Okay, let's get the rest of this together. Right here, we want to make sure we don't have any tightness on that part. That's precision fit, as you can see. Okay, and this guy has to be able to.
Move pretty freely.
It does. So here, we'll lubricate it. Let's get another lubricator. Oh, right here I have. This is a special lubricant. This is GLY 2100. It's a Kluber product. It's called a fluid grease, and I put that on this guy right here, and it stays put. Okay, and the rest of it, of course, we aren't going to lubricate in here because that's now lubricated with the Kluber. We will lubricate things like this. We have to lubricate the main bearings here. I'm going to put a really good amount in there.
Is that the spot where it has to sit for half an hour?
I have to put another component in there, but right here we're going to put this in here.
That's for the bronze.
Yeah, you might have a little oil coming out of the machine. I'll try to wipe that off.
We're fine.
And so here we need it here. On that part. Okay. Now, I'm going to put this back on the needle bar back onto it, the needle bar support or needle bar frame. And okay. Now here, if you remember, when we looked at this guy, this notch was about here. When it was like this notch was about 180 degrees different. So we can take that. We have a. We're going to put this guy back in place. So it will stay together. The reason that that's on there is that when you make the needle position adjustment, you don't want any axial play. You want any looseness here. Okay? So here we put this in place, and now you can see when we're like this, we can take you can run through a screw on this side, right here, and you can make a needle position adjustment there. So you're gonna, with that eccentric, because you can see here how when I rotate this, see how it moves? It moves the connecting rod back and forth. See that? That's an adjustment. Pretty cool. So anyway, right here is about where it was. And that notch is simply a notch there for location. So that you'll know. Okay?
A starting point, kind of.
Well, no. Normally, starting point is right here. But this machine has been adjusted out before, and that's where it was at. I don't think that anyone knew how to make this adjustment, so that's probably
So it started at 6 o'clock, and now it's more like at 5.
Yeah, it's probably a virgin adjustment there, so we'll leave it alone. And we'll find out when we go back. I don't tighten this screw ever real tight, because you're in aluminum here, and you don't want to damage that. Although we could helicoil it if we had to. Okay. That is freewheeling, that's good, so we're going to lubricate that. Now, when the needle bar goes in, and we found that the needle was too far to the front of the stitch plate, there's there's only one place we can adjust, and that's right here, where we can actually loosen the screw and move the frame, the axle this way, or we can pull it in this way and get that slight amount of adjustment, okay? So, let me get a 10 millimeter gauge, and we'll see if that frame is good or not. Generally, it doesn't change. It's usually pretty stable. Perfecto. This should drop through and not stick. And we have very little movement in it. So that's a precision slot. Okay. Now let's go ahead and put the needle bar support in. And we're going to have, let me blow this out and get the solvent out of that.
Is that wool felt?
It's felt, yep. Yeah, wool. Okay. And here. And we're lubricated there. Needle bar here and here, just a little teensy bit. And the top, teensy bit here. Just keep in mind, over lubricating is more harmful than not lubricating. And then we're going to go back in place like this. Okay. Oh, got to get our take-up lever in there first, in case we're ready for that now. But we have that done, and let's see. I'll put this in place. This goes in this. This is goes in the crank here. Usually they'll fall down. Now it's tight. It's not normal. Let's fix that real quick. And take this guy. That's not going to fall. So that's ready now for one other part. It didn't get put in. See, that's going to go along there like that, and this is going to go, I believe, like that. So, put that. I hope I don't have that backwards. I don't think I have it backwards. I'm a little dyslexic in my older age too. That's not good. I write numbers backwards sometimes.
Yeah, I'm dyslexic.
Are you really?
Oh yeah, pretty
I've
badly.
never been that way, but in my older age, I'm finding I've got some issues here.
No, I
so.
probably spell at a 5th grade level.
What's that?
I probably spell at a 5th grade level. I'm really, I
Hey.
function at a high level in certain areas and remedial in others.
I was working as an engineer for a mechanical designer, actually, for a company called Evans and Sutherland, and they built high-speed image generators for flight simulators. Now it's not stuck. Make sure it's lubricated.
So they were doing what they were unhappy about, and we're going to take it out on anybody that they could possibly take it out
Well,
on.
you know, the thing is when I started having success, everybody wanted to jump on the wagon and claim some success. And then when I started running into problems, which went in cycles like that, then everybody wanted to jump off like fleas off a dead dog. So we're going to put this in here. And pack that up a little bit more. And we'll take a 7mm tool like this, because that's the journal diameter. And we'll simply push that through there, put our finger on that end, it'll force the grease through the bearings. Like that. And lubricate the outside.
Are these roller bearings on the domestic machines?
Nope, they are on some of the new machines with cranks, but on domestic machines you run at such low RPM that no, they would never go there. But I mean, with the bushing, actually, you get longer wear out of a bushing than you do a needle bearing. for ball bearings. I don't know if you knew that, but I didn't know that. That's why a lot of motors without ball bearings last longer than motors with bushings last longer than motors with ball bearings. Okay, now this guy, this is going to go here. And we put this one here like this, counterclockwise. Okay. And let's get a driver to tighten the machine. Okay, now, oop, that's backwards. That's got to be turned around. Where's that? You like to make videos?
Yeah. I'm mostly really curious about things. So I find I remember there's no way I could remember all this stuff when I get back. But if I have a video record of it.
You know, I've never met people that are curious and have been unhappy. They're always happy because every day is something new, and it's an adventure.
I'm pretty happy.
That's how I've looked at life, as an adventure.
So, also, I don't want this knowledge to be lost,
Yeah.
and I think it might be.
What I'm trying to do is to I'm making videos for my children for a couple of reasons. One is to be able to preserve what I know, and my children want to work in this business. That goes on there. And we're ready to install that guy. And there's a flat here, and when the pitman is turned, so the edges of the bell are like that. This guy, this knuckle will face down like this. It won't be like this; it'll be like this, and there's a set screw in the side that actually will, time this guy. People sometimes have put these together backwards and it won't sew, and they think something's wrong with the machine, and they junk it. And I simply looked at it and says, hey, somebody's taking a take of our part and haven't timed it right. Haven't put it back in right. Or for some reason the screw came loose. I don't know.
Ruth and I subscribed to a online service, a Blueprint. It used to be called Craftsy. Are you familiar with it?
What is it called?
Blueprint. What Blueprint does, instead of just having random YouTube videos,
Yeah.
which can be quite good or quite terrible, there's no vetting. It's a pay service. You pay, and then you watch an expert in the field learn how to bake bread or tailor a suit, or that's how I'm learning how to sew.
Yeah.
Is I'm watching a woman who's an absolute expert, step by step, real time.
And she's a very experienced
So
teacher
it takes
of
several
some.
hours to get through the class. It's like almost real time making the shirt. And what I'm getting at here is, because this takes you a lot of time and so on, that people like me would be willing to pay to watch you work on the machine.
Oh.
It's a niche market, I would realize, but I mean, how many people have 217s or would be willing to do it?
Yeah.
But a lot of people have domestic Berninas.
Yeah. Well, domestics are what I've been doing recently, and get to this side here, go through there, and there's a screw in it. There it is, here. Tighten that, you'll see that crank start to rotate a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know. Tighten. Okay. So there, you tighten that screw down. Should rotate down.
Yeah, it is. A little bit, and now a little bit more. And it's going down. It's about 530.
Yeah, that's about it. Okay. You have to make sure we're right on the money on that. And there. Okay, now there's a second screw. Tighten that one. There. That one goes on the shaft itself without going on flat. Okay, we are now in business, and now we'll take the little articulating link, and now we can turn the hand wheel without too much. Oh, came out easy. Okay, good. All right, so what we're going to do is put this in place here. That goes on. Okay. Okay. See, that's tight, which means two screws of this. Okay. So, put this back in place, and we'll do the same thing with it, but what we'll do is bring that up, and once we line that, and then we simply gently move that, lubricate it again. There. Push it back in until it stops. Actually, you should do it here. You pull this out, because you do this on domestic machines. You pull this out, and you simply pinch these two together here, and let this follow. Like that. Just pinch them. So we're good to go. And everything should be pretty easy. Make sure our bearing is tight. Yes, and that is tight, so that shaft is now can't move. Those are going to go in together. It has to have teensy bit of lubrication too. Okay, here we go. Okay, now this guy, bring this in play in position, and that engages there, and we have to be really careful, and move this back and forth, and get it into position. You can see how this lever contacts this edge. So we brought it out too far, the bearing out too far, but we're going to be able to move this whole block in a minute. See, that's going to go in there tight. We better fix that now. That's number 5 screwdriver for that. There, and used to know everything on size and all that. I don't work on these very often anymore.
Are these your favorite machines to work on?
Yeah, they are actually, but I'm still getting work on it.
Well, I'm glad we give you a chance.
It's always fun. Now, see this guy? Now, this whole thing can come loose. It sounds loose. So here I can put this guy in place. Okay. Right here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set. Actually, you readjust it when the machine runs. Okay, so that is free. Now we go down to the bottom. Right here. And you don't want that to be tight. And let's get this out of the way. Pull it back out again. Yeah. So right here at the bottom, that's got to be freewheeling. And here, it's not. Okay, let's find a spot here. Excuse me. There we go. Let's set that a little bit. Okay, that goes in and out easy. That goes in a little bit tight.
Do the domestic machines have this similar adjustment?
Identical.
So Bernina really just kind of like beefed up. They took the same design and just beefed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, we did kind of.
So the 117 is kind of a heavy duty domestic, and then they kind of beefed that up and made an industrial out of it.
Actually, the 117 was the first industrial. They were called industrial machines back in the day because they didn't have self-lubricating machines, and good enough. Okay. It's going to be slightly tight, but it'll be okay. Good. Okay. Here we are. So we'll run, when I run the machine in, I will readjust that so it'll be perfect. And that has to have lubrication there too. On that. So we go down the bottom now. Go ahead and put this in place. Excuse me. Get this guided. It's supposed to be. And that's about good. In place there. Okay. It was all. Okay. So here now we just have to hook this stuff up, and so we have put the parts here. We have those there. We need this guy here. Okay. So I think we've already checked that out. That fits good. Finally, so place it here. very high precision. So you're looking about 1,000 clearance on minimum. I mean maximum on some of these components, so they don't want to fit real tight, real well. First until you get everything in line properly, then they would. So now that swivels, and that guy has a little hole at the top, and that goes onto that little pin right there. Okay, now we have a central screw to put in that. Okay, perfect. You see how everything has to fit.
Dead nuts.
Yeah. Well, they have a Swiss term. It says "mukasakli." I'm not going to tell you what it means. It's a gnat something or other.
Well,
And anyway, it's kind of funny, but let's see. We have this guy going on here, like this. And-
dead nuts is a clean term. It's just double zeros.
Oh, yeah.
It just sounds
I
bad.
was in Switzerland, and when a Swiss, he says, "You know how small precision that is?" And I says, "Yeah, Bukasakli."
Where did you learn that?
From bad guys. Oh, it's not. It's a comical thing there. I learned a lot of Swiss things. I didn't learn any Swiss bad language too much anyway. I did a little bit from the guy who trained me because.
So basically, it was a German dialect.
Yeah, it's like you'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 for German. And in Switzerland, it's the same thing, but they would say 1, 2, 3, 5 sometime. It's a lot of dialect, and so you're saying 69, you'd say 96 in German, and in Switzerland, they say 96. Yeah. And it's a dialect. And we'll raise this up, and the shaft will go back through there. Okay. So here, let's put that in place. There and there, and we need the screws. I guess they're over here. But they prefer not. They have their druthers. I like these damn torque setting on them.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to tip this down so you can see what's going on in here. Okay, now let's pull these up like this and tighten those. And then we're going to put in this guy. Okay. Pretty clean. Yeah. Okay, and then we have this guy that goes on here like this. Remember that was a needle. This is an O position setting for the machine. So what happens is when this is moved, you see right here on the crank is going to move back and forth like this crank, right? You can see it moving here, okay? I'm going to go ahead and set this like this. I don't know what our position is, but we're going to set that, as you can see now how this goes. What can happen though is that crank right to the bottom can go past center. And when it goes past center, if you look at the axle like this, and so the axle is going like this, when you want the block to come center so that when it's at center, you have no movement of the needle. But if that thing sets down lower, you're going to get a negative zigzag on straight stitch. or if it's set above it, you get a positive zigzag on a straight stitch. So we have to set that up, and time for